Good morning, everybody. Kate Johnson here from the Art of Cheese at Briargate Farm on day 5 of our 5-day cheesemaker, 5 days on a cheesemaker's farm. I keep forgetting what I named this session. Anyhow, today I'm going to try using my earbuds in order to see if I can get a little bit of better sound quality for you. This room is kind of echoey, and so I'm going to see if this helps. Anyhow, thank you all for sticking with me this week. We've done 5 days in a row of all kinds of different things that happen on a working dairy goat farm that also makes cheese. Now, we don't make cheese professionally. We teach cheese making, so really we're a cheese making school, but we do things very similarly, just on a smaller scale. And right now, I don't have a lot of in-person students because we can't, and so we're just doing some live sessions, doing Zoom sessions, and so on. So if you have not been with us for the rest of the time, or even if you have, let me summarize where we've been. On day 1, we bottle fed the baby goats. On day 2, we milked the mamas. On day 3, we pasteurized the milk in the morning, and then in the afternoon, we started our batch of Chevre. On day 4, we continued our batch of Chevre. So Chevre is a very easy cheese to make, but it has a series of steps over a long period of time. I mean, not long, but 24 to 48 hours. So where we are now is our Chevre is done, and we have to add our last ingredient. So we've been hanging this bag of Chevre for about 24 hours, and now we're ready to take it out of the bag and salt it. So most cheeses have 4 ingredients: milk, culture, rennet, and salt. So we're going to talk just a brief moment about salt, and then I'm going to show you how we salt it. It's not rocket science, pretty simple. And then I'm going to start to show you some of your options with Chevre, all kinds of different flavorings that we can do, and different shapes and different looks. So let's start by just talking a moment about salt. So I'm going to turn this around, show you my little display of salt. The number 1 rule of thumb with cheese making is non-iodized salt. Okay, the iodide in your salt will give you a weird flavor. It has a weird texture. In an aged cheese, it will interfere with the chemistry that happens as we continue aging cheese, because lots of stuff is happening on a microbiology and chemistry basis. So these are some cheeses that you have options for that will work just fine. You can get non-iodized sea salts at the grocery store. All 3 of these I can find at my local grocery store, and they will work great. You can use kosher salt. You can use coarse ground or a finer ground, or you can buy cheese salt from a cheese-making supply company. Now, I generally don't recommend buying cheese salt because it's just expensive. It's very nice salt. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a nice flaked kind of non-iodized sea salt, so it dissolves in your cheese very well. But it can get pretty pricey, especially when you factor in paying shipping. So I have to admit, I have not tried the Goya brand yet. You see it's still sealed. I haven't tried it yet. Of these, I really like this one best. I just find that it has a nice mild flavor. This one tends to be a little over salty for me. So if you use that one, it's fine. I would just cut back a little bit on your salt because it tends to be really salty. This one, the coarse ground, I use for certain cheeses where I want a bigger ground, like with feta. But this is the one I probably use the most often. Okay, so let's check in. Let me just put my other glove on real quick, trying to be all hygienic here this morning. Of course, then I'm handling my phone, so what good does that do, right? That's why I didn't put that one on. All right, so here is our Chevre bag that's been hanging for 24 hours and dripping. It also did get a light press between those plates yesterday, but just for a little while. For most part, I just use hanging. So this was a half a gallon of goat milk that we started with our mesophilic culture. Then we added a little bit of rennet. Trying to do this one hand is always kind of fun. Here, let me just do this. Let me turn this around and we'll do it like this. Okay, so here's our little bag. Hopefully I can keep this cord out of the way. I just bought some cordless, the Bluetooth earbuds, but I haven't figured out how to use them yet. So every time I do something new, I have to learn this whole new technology. All right, so there it is. And do you see how nicely it came right out of the bag? No mess. If you remember, I was talking about when we scooped the curd into the cheesecloth instead of pouring it in, that one of the nice things is your bag is really easy to clean up. Now, this is just a piece of cheesecloth. You can use this over and over again. What you would do right now is take this and rinse it thoroughly in cold water. Get all that cheese and milk residue out of there, and then you can either boil this in boiling water, stick it in a garment bag and put it in the washing machine, or I put them on the top shelf of my dishwasher and run them through the whole wash, rinse, dry, sanitize function, and they last for years. Okay. For this, I'm not going to add a lot of salt because some of the ingredients I'm going to add later are salty. So what I just do is take a little bit of this salt and I just sprinkle it on the surface. Not very much, okay? And then I take a fork and work it into the curd. And the reason I do that is, well, first of all, it works the salt into it, but it also helps take that drier outer edge and mix it with the creamier inside. And so you get a more consistent texture. This is a really nice texture of Chevre. Now, this is much softer than it will be once it's been refrigerated. Remember, everything at this point is room temperature. And so it's still pretty soft, but once I refrigerate this, it's definitely going to get firmer. Okay. Now, why do we add salt? Just as a little lesson in why we use salt. Obviously, salt brings up the flavor of things, but salt also is a preservative. And when we make homemade cheese, it's the only preservative really that we're going to use. Sometimes we use a little bit of ash and some other things like that, but for the most part, salt is it. Okay, now I'm going to do a couple of little flavorings here. So this plain Chevre is delicious. It's ready to go. Eat it just by the spoonful. It's so good. But if you want to make it look a little fancier, one thing I like to do is I take some herb salt. This is made by my friend Gail. I'll show you the little thing. She is down in Albuquerque now. She used to be right around the corner from me. But you can order this online at her website, gailsalts.com. It is the best blend of herbs. I love it so much, and it gets rave reviews every time I serve this. It's got little bits of lavender in it and all kinds of great dried herbs and a little gray sea salt, and it just goes really nicely on this. So what I like to do is just shape my Chevre, and I'll just take a little piece. And I'm just going to shape it with either very clean hands or I'm wearing gloves, and just shape it into a little log. And then, and like I said, this little log is pretty soft because it's room temperature right now. And then just take your herbs and roll it in the herbs. Now, you could use fresh herbs too if you have them. I'm terrible at growing fresh herbs. But the thing with fresh herbs is you'd have to eat this cheese right away. Like within a day or two, those herbs won't be so fresh anymore. Nice thing about dried herbs is this will hold up a lot longer. Of course, once you make this, it's not going to be around very long anyhow because it's so delicious. And then you can see you can just serve this and take that to a party. Tell them you made it yourself, and I promise you they will invite you to the next party. So this is one of my favorite ways to serve this. It's just a beautiful little, presentation. Okay, another way I love Chevre is with honey. So when I do honey Chevre, what I do is I just take a little bit of the Chevre like this, and then I'm going to take a little bit of honey and just drizzle it on top. How much? I don't know. It just is up to you. You know, I never measure anything. I mean, I measure my initial ingredients, but it's just, put as much in as you want. And what I usually do is just drizzle it on top there and then mix it right into the Chevre. Oh my gosh, this is so good, you guys. It's like tangy and sweet. And I do have to give a shout out to my friends Joe and Sue because this is your honey from your bees. They live around the corner from me and they give me honey every now and then. We have bees too, but we go through our honey so fast I usually run out long before I'm done having honey. So there you go. It doesn't maybe look the most beautiful. I have some really pretty things I've done with this where I've made it look like a little beehive and then put a little dollop of honey in the middle. Anyhow, it is the best thing ever. So there's your little honey Chev, just another way that you could serve this. Now I'm going to turn my camera around here and show you my little flavor bar. So when we do Chev classes live here in the classroom, we let everybody customize their own little thing of Chev. And so I'm just going to show you some of the options. We've got a black truffle infused sea salt. We've got cracked black pepper, Tuscan seasonings, some chives, some smoked paprika. These are great, these Mrs. Dash herbs, because they have no salt added, so they're really great to add to cheese. That particular one, Southwest Chipotle, is really good. The creaminess of the cheese kind of cuts the spice a little bit. And then Greek Kalamata olives. This is the first time I entered my cheese in a contest. I entered a Kalamata olive Chev where I mixed the olives straight into the cheese, and I got a champion ribbon for that. Now, I always have to tell people I was the only one that entered that contest, so it wasn't that impressive, but it was fun. Susan, I get that herb salt at my friend's website, Gayles Salts, GAYLESSALTS.com, and she does free shipping. So I'll tell you what, I use that herb salt, and I'll get anything from Gail for plugging this other than thank yous, which she always is wonderful about. But I use that in absolutely everything. I put it on my Thanksgiving turkey. I put it in soups. I put it in bread. Make herbed bread. Oh my God, it's to die for. Put it on in sauces and sauteed vegetables. It is like my go-to herb blend. Okay, and then another really fun idea is pesto. In fact, this is a really fun little thing. I probably don't have time to show it to you right now, but what I'll do is I'll show you a part of it. It's just another shape you can do for your Chev, is take your Chev and instead of making it into a log, make it into a little disc. Okay, so just shape it into a nice little disc like this, a little patty. Then put it on your plate, and then you can top that with something. Like I've topped it with jam with toasted hazelnuts mixed in, or pesto and sun-dried tomatoes. Just makes another really pretty thing. I'll show you a little picture up here on my wall of another way you could do it. This is a little disc of Chev with lemon zest and fresh basil, and then I topped it with some pretty flowers, which happened to be edible. I didn't eat the flowers, but it was awfully pretty. So those are some really fun ideas for ways that you can flavor your Chev. Now, we have one more session that we're going to do together here tonight at 5:30, and I am going to show you how to make chocolate Chev truffles. Oh my goodness, they're so good. And so there's a couple of options for how to do it, and I'm going to get part of it ready today, and then I'm going to show you how to actually make the base for it tonight. So come back at 5:30 and see chocolate Chev truffles. And let's just see if we can go out and say good morning to the goats real quick. And then I have to go over to my Instagram channel. So if you want to continue this fun conversation, come on over to Instagram. And now we're just going to run down to the barn and say good morning to the goats, because everybody always wants to see the goats. Mamas are mad they haven't gotten milked yet. I can't seem to do everything before 8 a.m. I'm not a true farm girl, right? I would be up at 4:30 if I was a true farm girl. I'm a city farm girl. All right, so here's the girls, here's the babies. Okay, see this big goat in the back here? That's Capella. That's her hay manger. One day somebody came over and she was in there laying down, and they said, "Why do you have this goat in a box?" It was so funny. I'm like, she's not in a box. That's her hay manger, and she gets in there of her own free will. She's ginormous. Her daughter does the same thing. This is her daughter, Phoebe, and she's always in the hay manger. And her daughters do the same thing. It's just so silly. Okay, I got to run, everybody, because I got to run over to my Instagram channel. Thank you so much for coming. And please come back today at 5:30, and I'm going to show you those chocolate Chev truffles plus a very exciting announcement. All right, so thanks again for joining me. Have a lovely day. See you later.